I was watching the news um, before we got together, and I saw somebody in Paris giving a news report, and he said that now they have, of course, it's the city of light, it's all lit up at night, but he said that they now have a curfew, and so you have to be in your house starting at 8 p.m. all the way till the next morning. So that's an example of a loss of something that in their culture is very important. And we're feeling the same thing. We can't hug our grandchildren, we can't hug each other, we can't get closer than 6 feet, we have to wear masks, we can't be indoors together in a friendly, affectionate way. So this is a time of the three feelings that will come up that represent grief. The first is sadness about what we have lost. The second is anger that it is like this. And that's a perfectly normal kind of anger, as I'll be describing. And the third is fear about, one, what will happen to us health-wise, and two, will this ever be over? So you put those three together, and you have the picture of a state of mourning. And of course, grief is the most mysterious of all the feelings, and it's the one that we most avoid, and understandably so, because it's very unpleasant to go through, and it seems to take our life over so that we're no longer in control. And that's going to be very scary if our whole identity has been based on how strong we are, how much in control we are. And when that is taken away, it's almost as if such a major part of our identity has disappeared that we hardly know ourselves. So let's take the feelings one at a time and see how we could work with each one in what I call a welcoming and holding way. So I want to welcome the feeling instead of trying to run away from it. And then when it does come through, I want to be able to allow that to happen and to hold the feeling in such a way that it's entirely mine and I take responsibility for it rather than blame anyone. That's what makes it adult. So in the example of sadness, one of the givens of life is that there will be times when what we cherish is taken away from us, or what we have gotten used to is no longer happening, or what was valuable to us is no longer in our possession. Or another way of saying it is that the first given of life is that everything changes and eventually ends. All the mortal things eventually go, whereas the immortal spirit goes on. And that may not be so consoling when we're in this grief reaction. So don't be surprised if you're not getting as much out of your spirituality as you would like to. That's normal, that goes with the whole thing. And at the same time, we don't give up our spiritual practices, but we are okay with them not making everything better for us. Sadness is simply the normal human reaction to any loss. Actually, losses are happening every single day. So in a way, we're mourners all through life. But at this particular time, it's particularly prominent in our consciousness. So you want to be able to hold the sadness with heart. In other words, self-compassion and compassion for the world around us, which is feeling the same sadness that we are. Pandemic. Pan in Greek means all or everyone. Demic means people. That's where you get the word democracy, rule by the people. So all people are feeling the same sadness, each of us feeling it in his or her own unique way. But this sadness that we're feeling is not something that's just happening to us. We can trust that we are members of a human community and that all of us are participating in the sadness. And there's something about that that helps us get through it. So for instance, in the 23rd Psalm, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. So in other words, I think I'm walking through alone. I walk through. I will fear no evil. I won't be afraid, even though I have to visit this dark place by myself, because, oh, what a wonderful surprise. Thou art with me. There's a companion. There's someone or something that is walking with me as I go through this. So it's not just that we're now feeling sad, it's that everyone is sad and we're part of a whole community of people who are feeling this. So there is some comfort in that realization, but the comfort only kicks in when you do the kind of practice that Radhule was just walking us through, which is the loving kindness practice, in which we get it that we're all feeling something together, and we're all hoping that we get through this in a way that makes us stronger and makes us more compassionate, not only toward ourselves, but toward everyone. Sadness usually brings about tears, and some of us have had long practice in preventing ourselves from going that way, especially men. And so we also want, as adults, to let ourselves feel the sadness in a tearful way if and when that comes up. How do you do that? You can't make yourself cry, but if you notice yourself tearing up, let it happen. So the two ways of working with sadness as an adult: one, I welcome it because I know that it's appropriate to the reality that I'm facing. And I'm not blaming anyone for it. And secondly, when it does happen, I let it go through me like lightning through a lightning rod and go to ground. So I let myself feel that sadness, picture it going through head to toe and into the earth. It's Mother Earth who takes our sadness and holds it with us. So the wonderful archetype in the statue by Michelangelo of the Virgin Mary holding the dead body of her son, that's called the pietà, Italian word for pity, that she feels pity for what happened to her son. We feel pity for both of them. That's the image of the great Earth Mother who holds what is lost. And when she holds it, she's preparing it for resurrection, for something new that will come. So that's our spiritual hope, that if I sit with the sadness, if I hold it the way Mary held the body of Jesus, something, and return it to the earth, something will happen that opens me in a new way. May not be the end of the pandemic, but it will be a new way for me to hold my experience. That's what an adult does. Welcome in the feeling, hold it, return it to the earth, and notice that I feel stronger and clearer, more myself, when I have aligned myself with the reality of the loss. So I'd like to open it up for any responses or questions that come up for you on the first part of our topic, which is sadness. And if you have something to say, just raise your hand or go to your unmute. If I can't see your picture, just go ahead and unmute and talk. So, questions or ideas? Barbara, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A few weeks ago, I was thinking of when I was growing up. I think it was Labor Day, and remembering all the fun times of running through the cornfields and going to some festival. And we would do this every fall, Labor Day. And then we'd come home and we all husk corn and have hamburgers and iced tea. And, you know, it was just such a pleasant time. And just thinking of all my childhood activities. And then the reality. And that's when the sadness came in. It wasn't so much anger, it was just such sadness that we're confined. We can't just go play. We can't watch our children play. And I guess that's when I really felt the sadness really deeply for the first time, comparing what was and what is now.
That's a wonderful example, and we can all relate to it. I'm sure we were all thinking of our childhood when you were saying these things.
Yeah, especially when we were all growing up, we had so much more freedom.
Yeah.
You know, things were just more simple and not so much fear of being abducted or something. We could just go out and play all day.
Yeah.
Lots of good family memories, that kind of thing.
So you felt the feeling arising, and you just allowed it to have its career, have it be what it is. That was a very healthy way to do it, instead of, I think I'll have an ice cream cone.
No, I've really thought about it for a while, and just the before and now. And my only hope is that this is a temporary thing, and this time next year we're all going to be out playing again.
We hope. Yeah.
That was my hope.
That's a good word.
It is my hope. Trust.
Good. Thank you. Kirk, is it Dirk or Kirk?
It's Dirk. Yeah, I've thought about this quite a bit, and I'm as a result of this talk, I'll be probably, it's increased my sensitivity, but I'm amazed at how subtle the sadness is. It's not, it doesn't have an immediate impact for me because I cope, I think fairly realistically. We try and do more gardening, and I've got my art projects, and various things we do, but there's this kind of a subtle background sensation. Excuse me. And so I'm just acknowledging that I probably need to pay attention to that particular emotional quality a bit more directly.
That's a very good way to put it. Pay attention to that quality. That's good.
Can you sense it in your body? That very...
Oh, yeah. I would probably describe it as kind of enervating. It removes some of my energy. You know, it's slightly demotivating. And so there's some inertia or friction that I have to overcome to reach the former optimism and sort of carefree mentality that I recall.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it reminds me to say that when this sadness comes in, it's normal to feel listless and less energetic, just as Dirk was saying. And that's because we're in this mournful state. And it's the body's healthy way of letting you go through something rather than interrupting it with an energetic style that is really inappropriate to the sadness. Like if you had two cats for 10 years and one of them died, you would notice that the other one would be kind of dragging around without her usual energy level, and she might not even have much of an appetite. And that's because she, like all mammals, have this grief reaction in which elements of our energy shut down naturally so that we can stay with the real feeling. The body helps us. It knows how to grieve. So don't try to activate yourself until you feel the cloud lift.
Yeah, don't counteract that.
Don't counteract. Yeah. In fact, that would be another way of being an adult in how you go through it. I'm glad you brought that up. Sure.
Maybe I like to...
Sorry. Oh.
Can I just quickly add something?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You know, sometimes it helps me to hold this sadness and that listlessness and this loss of energy kind of in a, how would I say, in a bigger container. Like, let's say I sit out in my garden. And I think that's why nature is so amazing. You know, it holds our sadness.
Yeah.
Or sometimes for some people it's meditation, or, you know, or it's music. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sherry, you had something? Go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to say, it seems like being able to hold the sadness is difficult, because in some ways we have a sense of entitlement toward being happy, and that there's like a denial that the sadness is everywhere with everyone. So I feel almost like in our culture there's the thought that we deserve to be happy all the time. And it helps us not, that keeps us from accepting the sadness and dealing with it. Any comment on that?
Yes, I love what you're saying. And I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, we believe, oh, well, I'm entitled to be okay and happy all the time. And that's contrary to the given of life, that sometimes losses happen and changes happen that we don't welcome. And we're going to be unhappy for a while. And it has to be okay with us that we go through the full range of human feeling.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you'd be like an actor who applies to be in a movie and tells the director, I never feel sad, so I can't show that. I never feel anger, so I can't show that, but I do want to be in the movie. Hello? We need somebody with the full range who can show all of the feelings. And that's all of us. You know, we're all supposed to access the full range, and we can do it. Some of us were taught that it's not okay to cry, it's not okay to be sad. That's a sign of weakness. Adults have realized it's not like that. That healthy people show all the feelings
Mhm.
as they come up.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I add one thing, Dave?
Yeah.
From a Buddhist perspective, I just recently read something quite interesting, and that is when we have fear, the raw energy, if we go away from the entanglement, is alertness, and anger, the raw energy, is determination, and with sadness, the raw energy behind it is connection. So in a way, sadness is very much connected with connection, you know, with our longing to connect. And, you know, if we look at Buddhist philosophy or we look at science, everything is interdependent, everything is interconnected. That's our true nature. And that's not happening, we get sad. And then there is this longing for belonging, for connectedness. And I find myself, what helps me then is to find ways, not in a manic way and not in a defensive or denying way, but to connect, you know, to call an old friend or so, maybe after I allowed myself to grieve, you know.
Good. Okay, Yarko, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to see you.
Nice seeing you too.
Yarko and Amy are with us from Chicago.
Yes,
And they're recently married on Zoom.
yes,
So
thank you.
You know what this is all about.
So I apologize for not responding earlier. I just had my flu shot and didn't have my stuff set up here. So a couple of, I have accumulated thoughts here on this. One is you said, oh, all mammals need to be together. And I recall from my studies of Jaak Panksepp's work that it's actually much wider than that in evolution. It's mammals, fish, birds, reptiles, all bees. Flocking and working in groups is about survival. And one of Jaak Panksepp's premises, which sort of mirrors what Dan Siegel from UCLA, the neuroscientist, says, that there is no me without we. So in his talks, he talks about the entity MWE. So it's not me and it's not we, it's the combination of two. As a matter of fact, in Panksepp's work, our brain structures of seeking and joy, Panksepp discovered that we do not experience joy or happiness without the expectation of sharing. So here in that context is my reflection. We've been locked down and it is sad, and I've lost motivation. Amy and I have been looking for a home of our own because we're recently married, and we decided recently to do that in Chicago to be close to grandkids. We found a home. Home inspection's happening Monday. suddenly all the son-in-law and everybody's excited and can't wait to come do projects in the garage. And suddenly I'm all enervated again. And it's that lack of social interaction which provides the survival safety that causes, I think, the sadness, and the engagement that causes the participation for everybody's well-being that adds to our happiness. It is one of the drivers, even if we're not aware of it. And it's sort of magical. It's also, I think, what a lot of religions and Buddhism really talk about. So for me, this whole ecology is beautiful. And I think the pandemic puts that at risk for us. But if we're aware of the importance of connection in the bigger scheme that aren't just our own experience, I think we can overcome it. I think, for example, I think we can do things like this.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Yarko.
And nice to see you.
Nice seeing you. Okay. Well, I want to add two last things to our topic of sadness before we go on to our next one. The first I can express best by quoting The Little Prince. It's such a secret place, the land of tears. And when I read that back in the 1960s, I was struck deeply. I thought to myself, I'm going to memorize this and I'm going to keep reminding myself of it. When those tears come, they come from a secret place inside and they pick up on the unshed tears of the past. So we're never only feeling sad about what's going on in the moment. Our sadness is a reminiscence of other sadnesses and other losses that we went through, but maybe didn't go through as completely as we could. And so they line up and they piggyback onto the new sadness. So there's something about what's happening now that brings you back to secret, unconscious places in yourself where other sadnesses are waiting to have their time to be expressed. So we don't have to have a big discussion about it, but I definitely wanted to bring that in so that we could see that it's never only restricted to the loss that's happening. And that explains why you could feel it more strongly and think to yourself, why am I feeling it this strongly? I don't have COVID myself. Nobody I love has it. But you're picking up on old, unfinished business that was waiting its turn. And we all have this. It's like an album, a family album inside. When you open it up, you see your old aunts and grandparents and parents, and you realize they're all gone. And so there's sadness in how you miss them, and it never goes away. And it comes back up when there are new losses. Okay, and then the final thing I want to do is give you a quotation from Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, that I think is very meaningful. And he's going to relate it to children. At many times throughout their lives, children will feel the world has turned topsy-turvy. That's exactly what happened to us. Everything is now topsy-turvy, upside down. It's not the ever-present smile that will help them feel secure. It's not when you override it with a big smile. Say, oh, everything's going to be fine. It's knowing that love can hold any feeling, including sadness, and that they can count on the people they love to be with them until the world turns right side up again. That's from his book, Many Ways to Say I Love You. So I'm going to read it once more without interrupting. At many times throughout their lives, children will feel the world has turned topsy-turvy. It's not the ever-present smile that will help them feel secure. It's knowing that love can hold many feelings, including sadness, and that they can count on the people they love to be with them until the world turns right side up again. Isn't that beautiful?
It's beautiful.
And instead of just applying it to children, we could apply it to each other. So we don't want to have to put on a happy face. We want to mirror the appropriate feelings that others are having, especially sadness. Any final comments on either of the two things I mentioned? The secret place, the land of tears, and we don't have to put on a happy face.
Hey, Dave, would you just finish the, would you repeat once more the last line there? And they can count on the people who love them.
They can count on the people they love to be with them until the world turns right side up again.
Thank you.
If it ever does.
Well,
In other words, I'm with you and I mirror your feelings. I don't try to talk you out of them or say they don't matter.
Right.
Which is how some of us experienced our feelings in our childhood. Our parents maybe weren't as comfortable as they could have been with our actual feelings. So they said things like, there's nothing to cry about. When we knew better.
well, maybe I like to add something to that, especially when you talk about how often very old feelings get unearthed. You know, I personally call that LRPs, long-standing recurrent painful patterns. These are there, you know, and maybe in our lifetime, and maybe nowadays we know they can be transgenerational, you know, kind of passed down through the generations. And actually they know how they are connected to the genes. Even they found this out now. There's some methylation on the genes, how this gets given down, you know. So if our parents or grandparents come from a place of trauma, politically, let's say, or poverty, or whatever it might be, loss, separation, somehow it's kind of hidden there. And it's when the right or the wrong causes and conditions kind of bloom up again, then I guess in Buddhist philosophy, they say it's like a silent seed in our mind stream. And when the right causes and conditions come together, then they flare up again. And I think right now, a lot of these complexes, LRPs, whatever you want to call them, old wounds, old constellations are there. And in a way that gives us an occasion for awareness. Oh, that's there. And maybe some grief to be done that we maybe have not done. So maybe some grief that was in our family that wasn't expressed.
Mm.
It's like I definitely can relate to that. My family had a very hard time in World War II, and my grandfather had a hard time in the Nazi regime. And so what's happening now is scary. It brings up similar feelings, not that it's the same. It's not happening quite like that again, but it brings up old feelings. It brings up maybe sleepless nights or waking up too early. It brings fear and sadness up. And I think to just kind of hold that with a very gentle heart,
Mm.
to say, oh, there you are, and maybe we can grieve now something our grandparents or parents couldn't grieve.
Yeah, we could maybe even complete other people's work.
Yeah.
May I speak to that for a second?
Yes, sure.
Because I've often thought that the trauma of slavery has, a percussive effect through generations of cultures. And I'm wondering, without asking too much, what kind of response does heal that? I have heard that it's partially encoded in the genes.
Yeah.
And, there's an actual mechanism that remembers. And I'm wondering what you might advise for attempting to heal.
Well, I could speak to that. I think the first step is awareness. Mm-hmm. And not being defensive, which is already, a tough one, to say, oh yeah, I can feel that. And then a sense of gentleness and understanding. And understanding leads to compassion. And I think there are probably many more specific steps what one can do, but that's already a lot. And I was wondering, Dave, what would you add to that?
I would add just what Radhule said, letting yourself be aware of it. Mm-hmm. Secondly, asking if there are any amends that you can make for the times in your life when you went in that, maybe biased direction. And then the commitment for the future to be on it in an aware way so that you don't go there again. Good. Well, I want to go on to the next topic, which is anger, but we're getting close to our 2:30 time. So why don't we take our 10-minute break now and come back here at 2:34, which is 10 minutes, and then I will start again.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
In a few minutes.
Radhule, did you have any comments, or you're on mute?
Maybe I call you quickly.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, welcome back, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. And Radhule, are you watching out for any new people who might join?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope usually they appear as a little sign wanting to come in. So I have.
Oh, okay. The best way to talk about a feeling is to begin with the given of life that brings up the feeling. We did that with sadness. We began with loss, and the natural response to loss is sadness. Now we go to our next topic, which is anger. And it begins with the given of life that things are not always fair. In fact, the dictionary definition of anger is distress and displeasure about unfairness. So when someone treats us in a way that we believe is unjust, we will feel distress and displeasure. And the name of that displeasure and distress is anger. Now, the adult style of anger is a communication of the feeling to the one that we believe has been unfair to us. But we do it without judgment, blame, violence, demand, controlling, retaliation. When all those come in, it's no longer anger, it's turned into abuse. And some of us in our childhood never even saw healthy anger because people were coming at us in those other ways, the ways that are aggressive and hurtful. But in real anger, it's a safe and safety keeping, as opposed to intimidating, way of expressing a displeasure about what you perceive is unfair, or other way around, someone shows anger towards you because he or she believes that you have been unjust in your dealings with him or her. So now we apply this to our topic, which is today's particular crisis, this pandemic. It's natural to feel anger about how it was handled by the authorities, about how it seems so unfair that all of humanity should be attacked by such a virus as this, by how people are being intimidated by the constant reporting on the news, presented in such a way as to include what seem like scare tactics. So we're going to have anger in a number of areas. And in our relationships, which is our particular topic, in our relationships, we're even going to be angry at one another because we're all putting each other in danger one way or another, we imagine, even though that may not be true. And we get angry at people because now we're either in close quarters with them in our household. And so we're going to be on each other's nerves more than usual. So more anger is going to come up. Or we could even be angry at the fact that our usual ways of finding support in the world by close connection with family and friends can no longer happen the way it used to. All of this is a way of saying that anger now is perfectly appropriate, and the adult way to show it is to express it as a communication of a feeling, not as blame or intimidation. And again, we're going to use our analogy of the lightning rod. I am letting the anger come in, go through my body, and go into the earth. Anger is the shortest of all the feelings, sadness the longest. I'm letting the anger go through me, and I am allowing it to happen, and I am giving it back to the earth so that I can move on to whatever comes next. And like sadness, anger is not a pleasant feeling to have. But when we allow ourselves to express it in this healthy and mindful way, mindful meaning without judgment, without blame, without fear, when we do this, we become friendly toward our anger and know that we can express it in a non-hurting way, and then go the next step and ask our friends and family members who might get angry at us, please to observe the boundaries around the healthy anger. Don't come at me with intimidation. Don't come at me with revenge. Don't come at me with blame. I can hear you best if you just express your anger as your own feeling, and I'll be glad to listen to you. In fact, I'll know it's real if I notice that I am very absorbed in what you're saying and feeling. But if I feel in the least afraid by the way you're coming at me, then it's going to be hard for me to receive what you're trying to express. So let me open it up there for ideas, questions.
One of the things, David, that I learned is that the shortest distance between an emotion and the expression of the emotion is a sign of good mental health. And so all these years I thought watching my parents scream and yell at each other was healthy, but in fact was not the way they were doing it. It was quite violent and to watch and to absorb. And so of course I learned that method. So for me to listen to you talking about how to do this and ground myself is very, very helpful.
Thank you, Maria. And Maria's bringing up a good point. I mean, our parents might not have had the skill to show anger in a healthy way. And of course, they were our models, even though we didn't choose them as models. It just happens naturally. That's part of being human. And so in our own relationships, we might come at our partners or children the way our parents came at each other or at us. And that's going to require some type of psychological work to release ourselves from that original example.
If I could
Dirk?
ask, so say now we have this good new tool, but say that the rupture has already occurred, the communication is deficient. What's a good way to sort of restore? Basically, is it to remain engaged and try and bring back that adult communication?
Yeah, it would sound like this. Let's say you became aggressive, abusive in your speech towards someone. And it sounds like this when you are trying to restore the healthy relating. I realize now in the way I was expressing anger that I crossed the line and I really said things in an abusive way. I wish I could take them back now, but I do want to apologize. And I want to engage in a practice of healthy expression of anger and of all my feelings. And I want to do this in a way that is about communication rather than getting my licks in. Yarko?
So I was telling Amy here as you were speaking, when you were giving examples of don't blame me, don't do this. And I said, oh, he's saying speak for yourself. This is what I taught with Sherrod Miller at Motorola, the engineering teams in the 90s. And speaking for yourself means when I hear you say something, here's my response. I'm angry because I think whatever it is I think. And one of the things that in Sherrod's structure is an information wheel, a data structure that helps you not only apologize, but to shift speaking for yourself. And the basic data structure is what have I been doing, if I can talk about that? What is my sensory data? In other words, what am I seeing, hearing? What do I think and expect about things? Those are my own thoughts. What do I feel? I can say I'm angry instead of acting it out. So when I heard you say that I cheated you, I was angry because that isn't what I intended to do, so let's talk through it. So having a data structure of how you can express yourself concisely with what you've seen, what you think, what you want for yourself and the others is a good way to actually functionally step into, I'm now speaking for myself. And here is the structure of my experience that I will communicate completely to you without missing anything. I heard this, I thought this is why I'm angry.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good way to put it. Thank you, Yarko. Judith, you had your hand up?
I do. I put my little hand up there, and it's I like that sentence that you used. I can hear you best when I don't feel. And what about this one? I can hear you best when I don't feel criticized.
Yes.
When I don't feel put down.
Yeah, the put downs and the criticism are in the anger, in the abuse column, not in the healthy anger column.
But the person is going to come back and say, I'm not criticizing you. This is why you are interpreting it as criticism. You know, they're putting it back. A person is putting it back on me that I should not identify with criticism, or she's not trying to criticize me. But it feels.
I would not continue in an argumentative way. I would just say, I'm glad to hear that you did not intend to criticize. Thank you.
Okay.
You see, you've got to stay away from the toxic ego battles that start to come up. When someone says what Judith just reported, it's the equivalent of, I'm shut off right now. I'm not going to hear anything that sounds like I was wrong. As soon as that ego has been aroused, and ego goes with abuse, not with anger. I'm talking about the inflated ego that's, part of us that's entitled and I'm the big shot, that kind of thing.
Well,
we immediately withdraw. We just say, oh, okay, thank you. I'm glad you were not being
Yeah.
critical, and let it go. Everybody follow? This is not weakness. This is an intelligent way to back off from what you know can't go anywhere.
That's a big hint. Thank you. A big thank you very much.
Yeah. Let me add one thing, Dave, and that is if I now step back a little bit, you know, and I think what you said was brilliant in terms on how to communicate. But let's say there's a step before when I feel I have been triggered. So what I recommend is in the step before, when you feel you have been triggered, to kind of do a little process for yourself, and maybe to kind of, no, can't see that here. To maybe go outside or go to the restroom or go into the kitchen to get a glass of water, excuse yourself, and then to kind of for a moment have a little process for yourself, which I call the mindful pause, where you say, okay, I notice I have been triggered. So what do I feel in my body? You know, maybe I feel, you know, a tightness in my shoulders and my jaw, maybe my arms are tight. And then exhale gently to relax, because that activates the vagal tone and allows the relaxation response to happen. And then allow yourself to notice that you are hurting, you know, that you have been thrown out of balance. Step 3, you know, notice I have been thrown out of balance. And then step 4 is sense your heart, you know, sense breath going through your heart, because that's often where we first feel that we have been triggered. And then offer a moment of compassion to yourself. And that actually is most effective, even physiologically, when you put your hand on your heart. Offer compassion to yourself and say, may I be gentle with myself? And then return to breath as kind of stream going through, and then ask yourself, am I ready to re-engage? You know, so, and if you went through this little process by yourself, grounding yourself in your body, in your breath, in compassion for yourself, in feeling your heart, your breath, then, you know, and then do the step that Dave recommended, you know, because then you are on better grounds to actually have that adult conversation.
But Radhule, all those 4 things have to be done almost instantaneously when you're on the phone and something comes up like that. So perhaps I would do the sentence that Dave talks about, and then after it's over, then do the pausing and the taking care of myself, because it's if I waited and ignore what was happening on the phone to try to pause and do that, it would be gone. The moment would be gone to talk about it. So I think I would reverse what Dave's sentence first. I can hear you best when I don't feel whatever criticized.
Right. Either way, you know, like in some situations when you're with the person in the same apartment, then it might be good to excuse yourself and get a glass of water.
Right. That would work then, right.
Or when you're on the phone, like Judith says, then might be better the other way around. I completely agree.
Okay, thank you both.
Okay, Yarko?
So I would just add into this the simple sort of mental hook of speaking for yourself. I want to tie in Dave's 5 A's into this discussion. And that, let's talk about the first, to attend to someone else when you hear them, and to accept. And the way to do that, and the way we used to talk about this in Motorola and the engineering training of team skills and getting people to speak for themselves, is when you listen, you also take care of yourself by hearing someone else and accepting them speaking for themselves. So rather than reacting like, oh, you cheated me or you lied, it's like, oh, so you think this. Let me see if I got you right. So you saw this. So you want this. And now I can keep a healthy boundary between what you're saying and my sense of whether it's an attack or a trigger or something out of my past. And you can, to a degree, take care of yourself while you're being loving, and that is allowing someone else to speak for themselves and accepting it as no more than that. They're not attacking me, they are speaking for themselves. They're going through something. So these things are sort of interactive, I might argue. That's good.
And maybe I might even add, it's important who is in the room. You know, if it's two engineers in an engineering kind of situation, I can see this. But if it's one person who's hugely powerful and another one, maybe a woman, even though that's stereotyping, who's quite intimidated, then maybe, you know, we have to deal with it differently. So we have to see who is it, how's the power differential, you know, and how can we come back to, you know, a safe ground. Back to you, Dave.
Yes. Other ideas?
Yes, I have one.
Yeah.
My question is, having so many expectations and high expectations, and when your partner isn't listening to your needs or expectations, the frustration becomes greater and greater, and therefore there is arguing or there is discontent with a relationship. And I personally am a high achiever, and I'm always looking for the highest expectations of myself. And I find it difficult to back off.
I'm glad you brought this up, and I do want to respond because I think we can all relate to it. So what you're saying is there are times when you get angry because the other person is not really hearing you and not really noticing the needs that you're making a bid to have fulfilled.
Exactly.
And the other person is basically thereby saying no to what you're asking for. So first we have to say straight out, you know, right now I'm making a bid, and I'm using bid, B-I-D, instead of demand. That's not going to work. You got to go with bid, request. Right now I'm asking if you could notice my need to be understood, heard, held, whatever your need is. And I really want to be heard in this. So could you just tell me what you are hearing? I hear you saying that you want such and such. I hear you making a demand on me. I hear you bringing up the same old thing that I've already answered, you know, whatever kind of answer you get. You are noticing that you're still not having the need met. And so you can stay with it, or you can, at some level, get it that I'm not going to get the need met here today. And so I just have to let go of it. I have to reconcile, and this is another adult skill, to reconcile yourself to the lower dividend, to a lower dividend than what you thought you deserved.
Mm.
When you get the savings account monthly statement, and it says you are getting 0.10 of 1% interest, and you think to yourself, well, that's hardly anything. But you reconcile yourself to the low dividend because of all the other perks that you're getting by having the money safely in the bank. So we know how to do this. We know how to reconcile ourselves rather than start a big argument. That's one thing. And then secondly, if you're in a relationship in which over and over again, your needs are not being heard and not being met, then you have the bigger question, what am I doing here? And can I bring this into couples therapy to see if there's a way that I can be heard and that my needs can be met? So that would be the next step. And if ultimately you find out that it's just impossible, then of course you're faced with where do I go from here? Hopefully we don't want to go all the way to that. Hopefully there's a way of working it out.
But maybe I would like to add, Dave, somebody brought up earlier, what about when it's your aging parent? You know, you can't easily go to couples therapy and divorce them, you know, it's impossible. But sometimes you realize the person you're with is just not getting it in the way you want them to get it. And for one reason or another, maybe it's your aging parent, or it is you just, you know, it's your child with a disability, or, you know, it could be all kinds of, or your child that's just onerous or does disagree with you. So there are many situations where we can't divorce, so to speak, you know. And then I'm thinking, for me, it is. I remember living with my aging mom, and in the end, she had mild Alzheimer's, and we had a very difficult relationship. And there she was with me in the end, and then kind of see it like, I would say it's almost like putting yellow tape around it and say, I regard this now spiritual practice. You know, I regard this, maybe I cannot change this person, and maybe I cannot get my highest expectations met. But nevertheless, I'm gonna learn from this. You know, this.
Yeah, I agree. Perfect. I agree completely. It's letting go of the expectation that somehow you can jimmy out of them what they never did give anyway. And when you land there, you're in the realm of realism about the inadequacy of the other side, parents, family members, brother, sister, whoever it is. And you give up trying to get something from those who seem or are unwilling or unable to give it. It's an act of compassion mixed with realism that gives you such a sense of groundedness that you no longer need it. That's the paradox. When I let go of trying to get what can't be gotten, I wind up so grounded that I no longer need it so much. Does this make sense, Adele?
Yes, definitely.
And
Okay.
then I find there is this other paradox. The whole thing is very paradox laden, that then sometimes we surprisingly get more than we thought we would.
We might, but we're not going for that. It's not a strategy to get that.
Mhm.
but that might happen.
Mhm.
You know, usually what we want is very, very little. It's just that the other person thinks it's a lot. I saw this movie and I don't remember the name, but Paul Newman was the son, adult son, and he was a, let's say, lieutenant in the service, and his father was a retired general, and he had been brought up in this military home, and he received very little love and affection, he, the son, from his father. And there's a scene that really struck me in the film. The two of them are sitting in the car, and we're looking through the windshield. We see the father in the driver's seat and the son, Paul Newman, sitting beside him. And Paul Newman is trying to get across that he always wanted to feel loved by his father, but he never did feel it. And of course, he can't quite put it in those words because his father wouldn't understand, but he's trying to say it. And suddenly he breaks into tears and he puts his head on his father's shoulder. And he's crying in a very sincere way for all the times that he missed out on the attunement that he needed to feel loved. And his father puts his hand on Paul Newman's head and just holds it there and lets him keep his head on his shoulder, even though that's uncomfortable for him. And then he says this, and this is the part that struck me. He says, "Oh, is this all you wanted?" I thought, wow, yes, that's all he wanted. Hello. And you couldn't do it until now, but thank God you're doing it now. But I thought, yes, we wanted very little. We just wanted a little touch or a little word. We didn't want all lovey-dovey, and they couldn't even give us that. But becoming an adult is just accepting that it was like that, letting go of the blame, and just feeling the grief of it, our whole topic, sadness, anger, fear, and letting go of trying to force them to give us something that they're just not ready to give and may never be. This is not resigning yourself to a life of emptiness. This is working through the emptiness so that you land in reality so firmly that you notice the old needs are no longer so pressing.
Dave,
Yeah, John?
so what was Paul Newman's character's response to
He loved
his
it.
father's
Yes.
sarcasm?
Yes, he was right into it, and he was so happy that he got that one little touch. Yes.
Oh,
That's
so I
all he
misunderstood.
needed.
It sounded to me like the father was dissing him, was saying, "Oh, is this all you needed?" It
No,
wasn't
no,
that kind of a moment.
no,
Oh,
it
okay.
wasn't done like that.
Okay.
He was having a realization. He was looking at the audience and, as he said it, like, oh, is this all it takes?
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was so easy.
Okay.
It had that feeling.
Okay. Thank you.
I thought every
David?
person in the audience is jealous of him right now. Yeah,
David,
Maria? Yeah.
please,
Oh, Lynn.
yeah, please tell me more about what you are meaning right here where you're in reality. It's not a complete withdrawal. It's not any condemnation or the fact that I stay so grounded that it's okay.
Yeah, once you say yes unconditionally to the fact of the matter, shaving off, which is what we do in mindfulness, we shave off the blame, the demand, the expectation, the insistence,
Okay.
the attempt to get it to come out our way. Once we just have the bare bones reality of this parent does not offer what I want. Hello, can I just be with that and accept it and not keep pushing to get it, but remain open in case it does come along?
Okay.
That's what I call grounding yourself in the reality.
Okay.
Sitting in the saddle in the direction the horse is going and has been going since birth, rather than I want to go the other way and I want to bring all of them along with me. That doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, so this is a different kind of relationship where there isn't going to be a meeting of the minds. So thank you for explaining that more fully.
Yeah. If I had ever said to my father, gee, Dad, you never said I love you, he would just look at me like, what? Like, I mean, he just wouldn't get the importance of it, nor say it. So what could I do? Hold it against him for the rest of my life? Or just say, it isn't there to be had, and let that be okay? That's what you would sound like when you came, instead of going into anger, you're going into dogged realism that has now so freed itself from blame, making the other wrong, ill will, feeling cheated, feeling deeply disappointed, and all the rest of it. We eliminate all that and we just say, this is my story and I have to settle into it and go from here. It's an adult fidelity to realism.
And may I add something there?
Yeah.
So what we said earlier about sadness, this also fits in the bigger picture. When I was talking about evolution and all the species, this is why flocks and packs are favored for survival, because all of us are imperfect and we're never going to get everything from somebody. The stress, and Amy and I were talking about this, of the pandemic is we don't have the diversity of social connections. So if I don't get one thing from one person, I can let it go, which is reality in the evolutionary sense, and go to some other member because I'm stuck with just a reduction of members. But the reality isn't just like I have to face something that's tough for me. It's the reality that has always existed in every flock and every pack, and that's why there's big flocks and packs that survive.
Yeah.
It's the nature of it. It makes sense. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's accepting people's limitations. That's what it comes down to. Well, I want to go on to our other topic of fear. Do we have any final questions on this? Okay, I do want to share a quote. I have a quote for each one of our feelings. This one is by Bill Clinton, former president, and he was giving a talk at the Union Chapel in Oak Bluffs, Massachusetts. And this is what he said. The anger, the resentment, the bitterness, the desire for recrimination against people you believe have wronged you, they harden your heart and deaden your spirit and lead you to self-inflicted wounds. So I'll read that once more because I think it's so important. Because he's bringing in the element that I didn't bring in, which is how we hurt ourselves when we keep trying to force people to be fair to us or love us when they won't go in the direction of showing that we demand. And we can, as he says, you can just turn it into bitterness, but you're only going to hurt yourself. So let's hear it once more. The anger, the resentments, the bitterness, the desire for recrimination against people you believe have wronged you, they harden your heart and deaden your spirit and lead you to self-inflicted wounds. Isn't that beautiful?
Please read one more time.
Sure. And by the way, when I say they deaden the heart, what I mean is the anger, the resentment, that's what deadens your heart, not the people. The anger, the resentment, the bitterness, the desire for recrimination against people you believe have wronged you, they harden your heart, they deaden your spirit, and they lead you to self-inflicted wounds. So that's straight from the president. All right, so let's look at our third and final feeling. That is a component of grief, and one we certainly feel today. That's fear. And again, we start with the given of life that leads us to fear, showing the legitimacy of each of our three feelings. Sadness happens because of loss. Anger happens because of unfairness. Fear happens because of threat or danger. So we live in a world in which at times we will be threatened or in danger, and the psyche comes equipped with a tool by which we can notice the danger and then do something about it. And that tool is fear. We need fear so that we will identify what is about to harm us. So fear is not a sign of cowardice. It's a sign of danger. Of course, there are also fears that are neurotic and illusory. For instance, we might fear closeness, thinking that the other person will smother us or take away our freedom. That's not really true. That's not really going to happen. But we still have the fear. In that instance, the fear is a wake-up call to show us where our personal work is. If I want to be in a relationship, I have to allow closeness. So my fear of closeness shows me that I need to work on that part of myself that is so avoidant, that's so afraid of secure attachment. That I might collapse under it. So instead, I look for ways to create distance in relationships. Now, in this day and age with the pandemic, we're going to feel fear just of being with each other and just mixing with other people. And that's going to be terribly cognitively dissonant to social beings like us who thrive on being with others. So it's normal to have fear, including the fear of catching COVID anyway. And so in our relationships, there will be an atmosphere of fear just because of what's happening socially and globally, but it will also come up between us because we might fear that the other person is not being as careful as he or she should be, or we might fear that the other person will get sick. We might have any kind of a fear that represents a threat to our bond. So it's perfectly normal to have this kind of experience. And I would like to propose a little 3-step way of dealing with this kind of fear, this neurotic, anxiety-laden fear that we all have. The first, and each one starts with A. The first one is to admit that you feel afraid. It's very simple. I'm scared by all this that's happening, even though I'm wearing a mask. I'm scared to go in the grocery store. Just admit to yourself that you do feel fear. Or in relationship, I'm afraid of what you might do or what I might do. I'm afraid that we might infect each other. I'm afraid of our relationship surviving now that we're in such close quarters, whatever it is. I admit, I call it by name. Secondly, I allow myself to feel the fear, let it go top of the head to soles of the feet, back into the earth. I'm the lightning rod, safely letting the feeling go through me. And when I do this, I'm already letting go of it. So I let myself feel it rather than take a drink, take drugs, etc. And third and finally, and most important, I act as if the fear could not stop me from doing what I need to do or push me to do what I shouldn't do. So the fear no longer stops or drives me. I act in such a way that I don't let that happen. So I admit that I'm afraid. I allow myself to feel the fear, and I act in such a way that the fear does not influence my behavior in the world. I can still do what I need to do. I'm not fear-based, fear-driven, or fear-stopped. Another way of saying it is, I'm letting the fear happen and letting it go. Okay. Let me check in for questions about this part. Fear, normal human feeling, not a sign of cowardice. Everybody feels fear. It's just how we handle it that matters. Any comments or?
Yeah, what about a healthy fear? Like if you're taking a walk on a mountain road and you see a bear coming towards you. Now, of course, that'd be automatic fear, but it would lead you to some kind of precaution or running or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
can,
that would be a realistic fear.
yeah. Or if you even get COVID, that would be a realistic feel.
Yeah, and you're going to deal with the, like when you're out on the path and you see a bear, use your example. Since one of the givens of being on a path in the woods is that I might meet up with a bear, I have, before I began my hike, checked with the ranger station. And there I have looked at the poster that tells me what to do if I encounter a bear. And that is what I go to. So I feel the fear and I go to the state-of-the-art method of self-protection.
But that would be true too if you started feeling, you know, you're coming down with COVID with all the.
Same thing. I go to the medical
Yeah.
establishment and find out, what do you do? Rest, drink your liquids. As long as you can still breathe, you're probably going to get through it. You know, however you're taking the state-of-the-art advice about how to handle something.
Okay, so maybe I'll add something to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, so often, especially if an old, you know, kind of, as I call it, lurpy or underground fear in us is triggered, you know. Sometimes we can, you know, go to the directions and think our way out of it, let it be there, but think our way out of it. But sometimes it's just this free-floating anxiety kind of fear, which feels overwhelming, which is kind of visceral, and it's not just a matter of turning the thinking straight. It's in the body. And so sometimes when I come to that kind of fear, you know, the more, you know, maybe I dipped into the collective or the personal unconscious fear, into the river of whatever it is, then it's almost like then it's important to be aware, to be kind to myself, and to kind of almost surrender to bigger stream, you know, to allow it to pass through me. And to kind of, for me, it helps me to imagine that I'm not isolated and alone, that I'm part of a bigger, I'm a part of a bigger universe. You know, I'm part of a bigger co-arising intelligent universe, and that I can just let awareness or loving awareness flow through me and allow it to be there. And then I, at some point, come to this place when I can get the directions out of the drawer.
Yes, thank you. And when you say I can be aware that I'm not alone as I go through this, this is part of the human collective experience, you reminded me, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. The sense of somebody or something with us is the key to freedom from fear. That something or someone doesn't have to be God, can be higher power, but it could also be that inner resource that everyone has, and that you can, that is connected to all the rest of humanity, and you can access it in yourself. I usually put it this way. Something we know not what is always at work. We know not how, to make us more than we are now, to make the world more than it is yet. So when you trust that there's some type of energy that is holding all of us and that gets it, that it's a hard road to travel, this road of the human story, and that somehow we're not going through it alone. You wind up feeling less overwhelmed by the fear. We will never have no fear, but we don't have to be overwhelmed by it.
Could you read that quote again, please?
Something we know not what is always lovingly at work. We know not how to make us more than we are now, to make the world more than it is yet. I came up with that kind of little affirmation out of nowhere, and I just have remembered it all these years, and I find it very helpful to go to. And it's something that anybody can relate to. It doesn't have to sound religious the way the 23rd Psalm does, but even that still says the very same thing.
Dave,
Yeah.
is there a way you could send us that as a follow-up?
Yeah, please.
Yes, I'll send it.
Or I was thinking of this quote by Jack.
Oh, well, do you want me to just put it in the chat?
Well, can we
Is that
copy?
how you do it, or Radhule, do you have everybody's email?
No, please send it to me.
I'll send it to Radhule. Should I just send it to you then, and then you can send it?
I don't think she's mine.
Yeah.
Okay. Somehow we'll get it to you. No,
Okay.
but I have another question.
Well, I was thinking that I love this quote by Jack Kornfield. If you have a spoonful of salt and you put it into a glass of water, it's very salty. But if you take the same spoonful of salt and you put it into a lake, it's not salty at all. So this more that is bigger than us is what holds us, and which makes our spoonful of salt not so salty.
Oh, got it.
We could all add our email
Somebody else?
chat. I'm sorry, we could all add our email addresses to the chat if we want to get your quotes.
Okay, I'm putting the quote in the chat right now.
Okay.
And
Can we copy it out of there?
then you can copy it. Now, how do I send it? I typed it in. So I just press return.
I don't know how to work the chat. You have to be in the chat. Oh, go into the chat.
Oh,
and
wait a
type-
minute. I have to send it to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It says send chat to, but then it just has all the individual, oh, everyone, there you go.
Everyone.
Okay.
I wanted to add one other thing. Is one thing that really helps with fear is also a practice, whatever that practice is for you. Because it's kind of like a ritual that gives us a structure, that gives us something to we can trust in, which creates new neural pathways. So whether your practice is the rosary or the or a mindfulness practice or hugging the same tree every day practice, having a regular practice is really important. I just remember good old Freud, Sigmund Freud. He said, rituals bind anxiety. So rituals make anxiety smaller, more contained. And in a way, a practice is a form of ritual, is something that we repeat over and over again. And we don't have to repeat it exactly, but you know, the more we repeat a practice, it creates something that flows on its own and that will come back. Like, for example, I do my mindfulness practice now for 40 years. And sometimes when I have a dream, and I'm very unconscious in my dreams, and a scary situation comes up, I start coming back to my breath. And so, and that happens in times when I start to feel, you know, I feel scared. I feel my body, I feel my breath. So I think having a practice, whatever your practice is, it doesn't really matter. I know you, Jolie, you were there when we had a beautiful evening with Danjo-san on practice. And people had all kinds of amazing experiences. Like one guy is mountain biking and he rides up and down the mountain every day, and then he hugs the same tree. Or some people do the rosary, and some people do their 20-minute mindfulness or centering prayer practice, or maybe they're Our Father, or whatever people do. It doesn't really matter so much what you do, but having a practice over a period of time, the longer the better, actually transforms you. It transforms you on a neural pathway, on a cellular, on a biochemical level. It's kind of like you might have a transubstantiation. Is that a word? Yes.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to say that is one of the best antidotes against anxiety and fear, I know. And then as we use it, it becomes something we can trust and we can rely on. And with each time we can trust and rely on it, it becomes more powerful. So I think in this time of COVID, of whatever upheavals are in the world right now, we do need our practice. And there is this other quote by, I think, Suzuki Roshi. He said, the miraculous to happen is an accident, but practice makes us accident prone. And it could, I remember we had, Dave, recently a discussion about this. It could, you know, in a Christian way, you could say it allows grace to happen. Grace might happen anyhow, but it makes us more accident prone. So I just wanted to say that's a very important antidote against all difficult emotions, but especially fear.
Okay, thank you. Judith, I sent you an email with the quote because I couldn't figure out how to do it on the chat.
Okay.
So could you get it off your email and then send it to everyone in chat?
Oh, okay.
And if you have a problem, let me know.
Okay.
So
Somebody else had a comment? Yeah,
so I wanted to add something about practice, because Dave, you said something about accepting the fear and letting it flow through us. And I want to talk about very pragmatic, simple practices, because really we need several layers of practices, right? There's one thing you do when you're cooking the chicken, and then there's another shift in practice you make when you notice it start to burn. So the same thing with, I think, our emotions. And what we used to teach in team skills, in effective team skills always, is the first awareness we have is usually of an emotion. And if the data structure of speaking for self, you know, what I'm sensing, what I hear, see, smell, what I think and what I want, if those are congruent, usually we'll have a positive emotion. If they're incongruent, we'll have a negative emotion. And the first hint that something is right or wrong is the emotion. So the really important thing in accepting and allowing yourself to feel is that it is the doorway to say, well, I feel fear about COVID, let's say. Well, what do I know? I've heard about the deaths. I think that it's possible to get it at the grocery store and I have to go. But I've also read that wearing a mask helps. That's how I manage my emotion. And the problem politically now, and this is also in teams, is when you review, oh, I'm scared because I heard some rumor, the question is what I heard complete, and is it valid, is it true? And is what I'm thinking or how I'm thinking about something the only way to think about it, or is there maybe another way? And there's a practice that's concrete and actually serves us in responding to our emotions, which are built in. And so accepting them and having a way to deal with it is the first step to making it comfortable and easy and actually protecting ourselves. I heard masks help. I'm not so afraid now.
Well, thank you,
Thank
Yarko.
you. And
Well, do we have one last question or comment?
well, maybe I just wanted to say one thing. We have to honor, like in Jungian type indicators, there are many different types of people. They're thinking type, feeling types, intuitive, sensate, intro and extroverts. I think we need maybe different remedies according to our disposition. If we are very cerebral, one thing works. And if we are more a feeling type, we need a different type of medicine, and to kind of find out what type of medicine is the right medicine for us. Dave.
Thank you. Well, I want to give us our quotation for fear, and this one comes from the science fiction book Dune by Frank Herbert. And on this futuristic place, when the people feel fear, they have a little affirmation that they use, which I will now share. And I myself use this one, and I think it really helps. And it does pull together all that we were saying about fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past me, I will turn to see fear's path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain.
Beautiful.
So that's a beautiful way to do it. You can just summarize it yourself. I will face my fear. I will let it pass through me, or this way, like lightning rod. And then I will turn and see that fear has gone and notice that I remain. Well, thank you all for your attention. And we're going to now have some time for Radhule to lead us in another meditation. And
Dave, I'm
we will
having
wind
trouble
up.
with this.
Pardon?
Dave, I'm having trouble with this.
Did you get my email?
I got it, but I can't get it in the chat. I don't know how to, it's on the bottom of the chat. Do you see anything there on the bottom of the chat?
Yeah, I have the same problem.
Okay, I'm telling you something. My email is Radhule, Radhule, @gmail.com. Just email me, whoever wants this, and I send it to you personally.
That's great.
Okay, and I'll send it to you, Radhule.
Good, great.
Yes.
So please email me and I'll send it out for you. And I wanted to do like a brief meditation for you. It's called a compassion meditation. Compassion for ourselves, for others, for our loved ones, for people we feel neutral about, and compassion for our world. And it's a really wonderful practice. And if you like this practice, you can find it on my website, radhuleweiningerphd.com. And you can just download it there for free, or email me, I send it to you. All right. Make yourself comfortable. And again, let yourself settle into the sensations in your body. Allow yourself to feel your body. Notice the touch between your body and the chair, the ground. Feel your body as a whole. The whole felt sense of your body. And from this field of body sensation, allow breath to arise with the in-breath. Let go with the out-breath. And feel every moment, every instant, every sensation and movement of your natural breath. And as you feel every moment of your natural breath, allow breath to breathe you. Then experience the gentle breath brushing through the area of your chest, where your heart is. And notice what's happening in this area of your chest where your heart is. Whether there's a bit of heaviness or lightness, tightness or constriction, feeling of ache, or a feeling of numbness. And whatever it is, notice breath brushing through ever so gently. And in your mind's eye, hold an image of yourself as you experience yourself right now or these days. In these days of upheaval, of pandemic, of quarantine, of insecurity. You might even sense what that feels like in your body. To be in this place of unsettledness. And see what happens when you wish yourself well. You might say silently to yourself, may I be safe from inner and outer danger. May I be healthy in body, mind, heart, and soul. May I live my life with ease. May I feel a sense of connection and belonging. May I be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And may I find the support I need. And may life rise up to meet me. Notice breath brushing through ever so gently. And in your mind's eye, hold those who are close to you, who are easy for you to like or love. Family, friends, whoever it is. Pets. And see what happens when you wish them well. And you might say silently to yourself, may you be free from inner and outer dangers. May you be safe and protected. May you be healthy in body, mind, heart, and soul. May you experience a sense of belonging and safety and security. May you live with ease. And notice breath brushing through ever so gently. Then extend your circle of well-wishing a little further to those people you don't know very well. You might have seen somewhere. You don't really care one way or another that much. You know, a cashier in the supermarket, a neighbor, a person on TV, whoever it is. And include this neutral person in your well-wishing. May you be well taken care of. May you be healthy and protected. May you be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May you find the support you need, and may life rise up to meet you too. And notice breath brushing through your heart ever so gently. And let's include all humans. Those close by, those far away, those alone and those with others. Those that are healthy and those that are not healthy right now. Those that live in safety and those that live in danger or poverty or imprisonment. May we all be well. May we all be healthy. May we all be free. Notice breath brushing through ever so gently. And extend your well-wishing even a little further to all beings. humans, animals, creatures, trees, flowers, the earth, the waters, the skies, our environment. May we all be well taken care of. May we all be safe from inner and outer dangers. May we all be healthy. May we all be well taken care of. May we all be aware that we are interconnected and interdependent, that we are in it all together. May we all receive the support we need, and may life rise up to meet us all. And may the benefits of this practice go out into the world and beyond. Notice breath brushing through the area of your chest, where your heart is, through your whole body. And with the in-breath, you might say silently to yourself, may I be well. And with the out-breath, may we all be well. With the in-breath, may I be taken care of. With the out-breath, may we all be taken care of. With the in-breath, may I be free. And with the out-breath, may we all be free. And may the benefits of this meditation go out into the world and beyond. Thank you so much. And I was just wondering, you might just feel very quiet, or you might want to share how this meditation, what that brought up for you, or how that was for you. If there are questions or comments. Yeah, Debbie.
Dave, I just really want to thank you. I felt you were so able to articulate so much of what we think and feel, but you were able to put it in words that we can express. And I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
And bookending with the mindful meditation was very powerful. Thank you.
Well, you know, Dave and I talked in the break because we feel this is really important and timely, this kind of event. And, you know, once a month, we are organizing a Solidarity and Compassion project, which this Wednesday is with Rabbi Kuhn and Vajraprana. And we were thinking of maybe next month, which will be probably a bit of a, you know, hot month in many ways. We'll thought of maybe just doing Michael and myself and my husband and David. Actually, I wanted to say David, myself, and Michael. Maybe do this town hall meeting, which is starting with some classical music, with some meditation, and then we will maybe talk a little bit more about this, what we talked about today, even a little deeper, and have, you know, some more discussion and a panel. So we just wanted to let you know that those events are free, and I will, you know, announce them as I announced this one. So thank you, David, for offering that, because I also felt what you were saying today was just so timely that I thought we should have this in a bigger town hall format. And I think that will be, we looked at the calendar, the 19th of November, Wednesday, from 7 to 8:30. And I'm sorry, Annette, I have to tell you, you have to get up at 3 in the morning. No. We'll try to tape it. Yeah. So. Yeah. Are there any more thoughts or words?
Just probably to reiterate what everyone else is thinking, this is very valuable and it's time well spent. And I thank both of you for putting it together and for the kind of wisdom that you've imparted. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, Dave, as always. Well, hi, Annette. You can unmute yourself. Oh yeah, you unmuted.
Ja. Sind wir jetzt alleine?
Ich glaube, die Leute da mit dem anderen Bild, das waren eine ganze Gruppe von einem Altersheim. Und
Ja.
ich glaube, die haben sehr wahrscheinlich nur ihr Dingens da angelassen.
Ah, okay. Okay. Ja, das war ganz toll. Ich möchte mich nochmal bedanken, dass ich daran an dieser Sitzung habe teilnehmen können. Das hat mir sehr gut gefallen und hat mir auch sehr gut getan.
Ja, ich glaube, nee, ich habe das jetzt nicht hier, aber nächsten Samstag mache ich was mit durch das Yoga-Zentrum.
Ja.
Ich weiß nicht, ob das dieselbe Zeit ist oder eine Stunde later, muss ich mal gucken.
Also hier ist jetzt Mitternacht, ne?
Du bist ja ein Nachtmensch, ne?
Eigentlich schon, nur ich arbeite zurzeit. Also ich muss leider dann doch eher früher aufstehen. Aber es hat mir sehr, sehr gut gefallen. Und der Dr. Dave ist wirklich ein ganz weiser und toller Mensch.
Ja, ich dachte mir, ich hatte so eine Idee, weil, warte mal, ich werde mal das Recording ausstellen. Warte mal, wir brauchen